In this video, we're going to finish up chapter 2. We're going to talk about the ledger lines. We're going to learn where all of the keys are and their names on the piano. And we're going to learn about sharps, flats, and naturals. Let's start talking about the ledger lines. But first, I want to draw a grand staff for you. And I want to show you some easy ways to draw your clefs. The way that I draw my treble clef is I start at the bottom. I make my little curly loop. I go up, over to the right, down to the left, and then the loopy circle part always circles around that second line, which is which letter? Ding, 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 G. And that's why this is also sometimes called the G clef. It also emerged from the stylized or cursive G. So there's my treble clef. What is my other clef that's below the treble clef? Bass clef. And I just kind of make it like a little hook almost. And the two dots go around the 1, 2, 3, 4th line. So what letter does that go around? F. All right. Now, to make the grand staff, you're going to connect it together on the left with a straight line. And then there's a brace. All right. So now we have the grand staff. Grand staff only goes from the low note, the actual lines, the low G, up to that top line of the treble staff, which is your high F. Now, that high F over on the piano, if you'll take a look over at the piano, that high F is this F right here. So here's our middle C that we talked about last time, and here's that high F, which is the top line of the treble staff. That low G is this G way down here. Now you'll notice that there are lots more low notes below that G, and if you look up where we were a second ago, here's that high F where we just were. There are a lot more high notes than that. We are going to have to start drawing in some ledger lines. So let's learn how that works. So here we are. We're in the treble staff. Now we already said that the top line was F. All right. Next, above that F, we're not going to draw a line just yet. Our next note is actually going to sit on top of the line. So we're going to sit it right on top of the line. And this one right here, muy importante. A lot of people forget that note. It just sits on top of that line, the top line. And if the top line was F, what comes after F in the alphabet? G, for Gladys. So there's G right there. Next, we're out of lines. What are we going to do? Are we just going to put it in some random space up here or up here? No, if we just put it up high somewhere, we would have no idea what note that is. So we're going to start drawing in lines in a systematic manner. We're going to draw that line right there, and we're going to put my note with that line going through the middle of it. And now in music, what comes after G? Not H, but A. So we're going to have an A right after that. Now, some people have asked me why we just don't have another big long line. Well, look what would happen if we had a bunch of big long lines. It would be so hard to read. We would have difficulty knowing where we were in our music. So let me erase those crazy lines and get back to this. So here we were. We had F here on the top line. G sits on top of the line. A comes next. And remember, I'm going line, space note, line. So what comes next? Space note. So we keep that A line. Ooh, crazy line. We keep the A line and we sit our next note on top of the line. What comes after A? B. Now we keep that same line we had. We're going to draw another line for our high C, one of my favorite notes to sing after I warm up, and it just keeps on going from there. What would we do next to get our D? Where would it go? That's a line note, so it's going to go on top of the line, and that's going to be our space note. Next would come what? I could go on forever, but we only have a 15-minute time limitation on YouTube, so I better hurry up. So anyway, that's how the top lines work. And I did put some supplemental videos under my favorites, and I have made some playlists on my YouTube channel. So if this is confusing to you, watch some other people. It's okay with me. Now, those are the extra high notes. Now, below the bass clef, what are we going to have? We're going to have some low notes. So we're going to do the exact same thing, but it's going to go backwards. So if this bottom line was what? G, for Gladys. Bottom line's G. Next note, we're going to sit. Well, not really sit. I guess he's hiding under the line. All right, what comes before G in the alphabet? F, which you don't want to get in this class. All right, below F, what are we going to do? We're going to start drawing in our lines. What comes before F in the alphabet? E. All right, next we keep the line, we draw it in, we can keep on going forever. All right, does that make sense? I hope so. If not, watch somebody else. All right, now, last place we have some ledger lines sometimes is here in the middle of the staff. There's actually only 3 notes in the middle of the staff. We have this one, which we already talked about, which is what? Middle C. There's really only 2 other notes. We have this one here, and we have this one here as far as pitches go. So what's below middle C, or what's in front of C in the alphabet? This is going to be a B. If this one's C, what's above C in the alphabet or after C? D. Okay? Now, these are really the only 3 pitches we have on the piano, because if you'll remember, this line right here was A, so A, B, C, D, E. Those are the connecting notes. There might be some times, though, that you see these notes written in a different way with ledger lines, and let me show you that right now. So sometimes, for instance, if you are reading and your instrument is bass clef, maybe you're a singer that sings in bass clef, or your instrument is a bass clef instrument. If you had a high note, and high for you might be a note right above middle C, because normally you're playing or you're singing in bass clef. Rather than all of a sudden switch to treble clef, so you're reading your music, you're reading bass clef, random treble clef. No, they're not going to do that to you. What they're going to do is they're going to start writing in your notes in bass clef, but use ledger lines. So instead of writing this D, which the composer maybe wanted you to play that D or sing that D, instead of writing it up there in treble clef, what you're going to do is you're going to just, my middle C is kind of crazy looking. Usually middle C, if you're in bass clef, is going to be a little closer to the bass clef. That's still middle C because there's 1 line, but we don't need to draw it up quite as high if we're just reading bass. So really, your treble clef might not even be here. It could be though. But anyway, if you're trying to play or sing that D, instead of writing it up there in treble, you're going to just keep that line, which would be your middle C line, draw it above that line. Same, so this note right here is the exact same thing as that D right there. How do we know? Because it is the D that is directly above middle C. All right, same thing. If you want to write that E in bass clef, here's your middle C. That's what your D is. So you draw 1 more line to make it an E in the bass clef. So this is above your middle C. Same thing as this one, just written in a different clef. I hope that makes sense to you. If not, just memorize them. You'll be all right. As long as you can figure it out. So for instance, if I had 1, and I'll just write 1, I'll write 1 in treble clef. If I have this note right here in treble clef, how do we figure that out? Well, we can just count down either from the E line, which we hopefully know that first line is E, or if you remember that middle C is that first line, you can count down from C. So I can either go E, that would be D, C, this one would be B, so that makes this one A, which hopefully you will get in this class. Or count down from C. If you remember that that first line is C, C, B, A. That's all you have to be able to do. All right, so I hope that explains ledger lines. Email me or again, ask me some questions or watch some other videos and hopefully you'll understand all that there is about the fabulous ledger lines.